Ignoring you, we're waiting on one other member for a quorum, and then we'll get going. He's on his way. have a quorum, so we're going to get right to business. I need to know if there are excused absences. Kyle, yes, okay. And can I have a motion and a support to excuse those absences, please?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. If anybody's here would like to talk to us before we get into the agenda items, but you'd like to talk to us about those agenda items, you're free to come up at this time to do that. Okay, all right. Not seeing anyone, I'll go through asking the board if there's any conflict of interest in the cases we're looking at today. Oh, no conflict of interest, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from May 1st of 2025?
So moved. Support.
Okay, all those or do you have any changes or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Financial statements. Hello.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Support.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hi.
Before I jump into the finances, I want to introduce Teva Arapari. He's been with the city for a while, working in our community development office. He is now with fiscal services, will be taking on the role that I had previously had with all the authority boards and doing the finances for the authority boards. So I just wanted to introduce him, so you will see his face at the next meetings coming up. And then we'll dive into our finances. I'm sure you noticed that these are just through April 18, as opposed to the end of April, due to the city's financial system switch from CGI to Oracle. We had to shut the system down for a couple of weeks and have a blackout period. So all of the remaining April transactions were posted into Oracle and are posted into May. So your statements as of the end of May will include all of the rest of your April transactions. At this point in the year, we're about 77% through the operations budget and 20% through the revolving fund budget. We paid winter developer reimbursements in this period. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, but everything was pretty routine.
Yes, good morning. Just one question regarding we have reserved for encumbrances approved project grants on the revolving fund, 3.5 million. And, I know we've, put a robust budget together for the year, but based on the, trajectory, momentum of the emerging developer grants, we're still confident in what we've got budgeted for fiscal year 26?
I would say that's probably a better question for maybe Christian.
Sarah?
I think we have budgeted we've budgeted more than we had last year, but we're hoping to run out of those dollars. In all candor. But yes, there's a cushion there.
Thank you.
Actually, is that going to be a topic of conversation next month?
The emerging developer
Yeah,
grants?
is that what we talked about?
It can be. Yeah, it can be, Lynn. You're right. We did talk about it.
Yeah, I was on a phone conference with Jeff, and it was something he was also worried about.
Right.
And so wanted to be a little more proactive by having a discussion about that going forward, so, okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month. Election of officer for calendar 2025. And is this just for the secretary position?
Yes.
Okay. We need one of the two on the ends to, unless you want to switch to secretary.
No, thank you.
Okay.
And typically, I wouldn't serve in the role, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it.
Okay, great. Because Lene is not.
Okay, perfect. It's me then.
Madam Chair?
So then can we get we need a motion for that.
Nominate Kaylee Dillard as secretary.
So moved.
Support.
Okay.
I guess we
And,
did it double.
okay, we had some conversation. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? You got it, girl. Thank you for stepping up.
Yes.
Okay. Our first action item is a resolution approving and recommending a Brownfield amendment for the Robinson Flats redevelopment project at 1407, 1409, and 1417 Robinson Road. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Support.
Okay. Go.
Good morning,
Morning.
everyone.
Morning.
All right, I'm really excited to bring in front of you this morning recommendation of a Brownfield plan amendment filed by Robinson Flats LLC for a redevelopment project known as Robinson Flats Redevelopment Project, which as Lynn mentioned, is going to be proposed at 1407, 1409, and 1417 Robinson Road Southeast. And so that is, the property consists of 3 parcels, which are qualifying as housing property under Section 2 of Michigan Public Act 381. The property is located in the Easttown Neighborhood and Business District and will ultimately revitalize this section of Robinson Road with the demolition of the existing buildings and construction of a new approximately 32,000 square foot mixed-use building with up to 24 apartments and a surface parking lot with 27 spaces. And in addition to that, 3 commercial spaces, which totals approximately 3,100 square feet. And so the 24 apartments are currently anticipated to be rented at rates that are affordable to households that are earning between 90 and 100% of area median income for Kent County. And it's anticipated that 20% of those, or 5 of those units, will be rented to households earning 100% of area median income for the length of the Brownfield plan, which will be 15 years. Total investment in the project is estimated to be $8.2 million, with approximately $5.9 million of that in construction costs. The developer and a development team is requesting reimbursement from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for up to $1.5 million for Brownfield eligible activities, including site preparation, public infrastructure improvements, and housing development activities. And so for the project, the housing development activities specifically include demolition, site preparation, infrastructure improvements, and then directly benefit the eligible property that is to be reimbursing that financing gap that's associated with the rent loss that's associated with those 5 units for that period of 15 years. So the amendment itself is expected to remain in place for a 20-year period. We're anticipating that the project would be completed in early 2026 and take up to 15 years to recapture the majority of those eligible activities through tax increment revenues. And then the project intends to capture for the last 5 years for the local Brownfield revolving fund. I did also want to mention that the development team is working towards the following subcontractor participation goals in connection with micro local business enterprises, women-owned business enterprises, and minority-owned business enterprises during construction. So about 7% for MBE, 10% for MBE, which amounts to an overall participation of 17%, or about $1 million of the $5.9 million in construction costs. So I would, at this time, like to offer up to Ron from Robinson Flats LLC to share a few words about the project and, potentially answer any questions that you all might have.
Awesome. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Ufuk Turan. I go by Tran. And thank you for your time this morning. And this project has been going on for several years. But before I go on the project, I would like to take the time and thank you for the city staff, planning department, and Mackenzie, and also Easttown Neighborhood Association, Uptown Association, and also Uptown CIA. I would like to thank you for their support and the letter of support. So the project was I'm very excited to be here to move forward finally after several years. This became like this after having a lot of collaboration with and several meetings with the city and the neighborhood association, such as like this originally was a 3-story building, but the recommendation of the city, they would like to see some density, so we went up to fourth floor and increase the density. And the neighborhood association, and they would like to see some like brick facade, and we collaborate with them and we accommodate all the recommendations and the needs, and we took them very seriously. And another one was such as like on the front face main level there was some residential. They would have liked to see more retail, so we switched the whole front facade to retail to accommodate that as well. So, and it's moving forward, it is very important to have the Brownfield sport. It's gonna make it big impact about the success. So that's why we are here to kindly requesting. And if you have like any questions about the project, I'll be happy to answer, or if you have any technical question, Jess is here to answer any of those questions as well.
All right. Anybody have any questions of the applicant? Sounds like you did your due diligence. You talked to everybody involved, and there are a lot of us sometimes.
Thank you. Yes, it took several years, but
Yeah.
finally we are here. And again, I'm very excited and thankful for your time.
Well,
And
this will
everybody
be a
else.
nice project for that intersection. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I just had one comment. Thank you for this presentation, and thanks for outlining kind of the history of this project, because I don't know how many years it is, but I know that it's been some time. So I think this is another good example of like connecting inside the neighborhood, and just what are some of the changing dynamics and desires. And then obviously the city, we've gone through, our different zoning pieces. So just thank you for that continued diligence.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Okay. Is there anything else? Okay. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Good luck. Now I know why it was so easy. One of our old staff people helping him out. Okay, our next one is the Emerging Developer Grant in the amount not to exceed $200,000 for a project located at 443 Sheldon Avenue Southeast. Can I get a motion for this, please?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello again.
Yeah.
So excited to bring forward this project, requesting an emerging developer grant and not to exceed $200,000 at 443 Sheldon Avenue. So this is actually a land bank lot that the development team has an option to purchase. So we're really excited to see this move forward. As you can see here in the memo and alongside the presentation, but the plan is to remediate the existing vacant site and construct a new 26-unit all-electric apartment complex. So we're really, really excited to have some additional housing in the market. Total development cost for this project is roughly $5.5 million. Hard construction costs of that being roughly $5 million. The emerging developer grant itself ultimately will be covering pre-development expenses, right, to get to site plan approval for any project. So the development team is requesting expenses to be covered for schematic design, geotechnical and civil engineering services, in addition to architectural and structural services, and then some pre-construction consulting as well. So Bryce Hansen is the emerging developer in question for this presentation, and he's actually here to share a few words too about himself and the project and how he's gotten here. So I really want to leave a lot of the meat of that presentation to Bryce. But I'm really excited to bring this forward and, anticipate to see other, exciting land bank lots kind of do something similar. So I want to turn it over to Bryce to share a few words if he's willing. And then I also just did want to note that this project is anticipating to come in at a later date for Brownfield housing TIF support as well. So you will likely see this come back through again. So Bryce, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to everyone for being here today and for taking the time to consider our project. Mackenzie shared a lot of the overall details and scope of the project. So what I'd like to do is share a bit about myself and really how this project came to fruition over the past year and a half. My passion for real estate began about 4 years ago when I took a job at the apartment complex I lived at Western Michigan University as a leasing agent, and learned everything there was to know about property management, what deciphers a good property from bad, tenant issues, and numerous other things. And that's where I started to spark my passion for owning and operating my own real estate one day. But shortly after moving back to the city of Grand Rapids, I realized that what the city really needed was not more real estate owners, but more properties in general, so more real estate developers. So that's where I began to shift my focus into the development sphere of real estate, and researched for about a year, read every book that there was, listened to podcasts, spoke with other developers in the community that would allow me to pick their brain for even 15 minutes, and learned many things about development. One of them including was that the first good step to any development is finding the right parcel of land. And that's where my next pivot came in, and that was finding the State Land Bank, which is now the Grand Rapids Land Bank, and the parcel at 443 Sheldon. This was just over a year ago today, and I remember because it was Mother's Day, I went out with my mom and grandma to lunch and ice cream at Jersey Junction per our normal tradition, but took them on a bit of a detour this year, and we drove around and looked at the 5 to 10 parcels that I had been researching and weighing the pros and cons. And shortly into the route, we stopped at 443 Sheldon, and it was an instant hit. Everyone loved it. And that's where this project really began. Over the next 6 months to a year, I reached out to Jess Solis as she was still at the city, and she gave me a list of things that I would need to get into an option agreement. Things like construction cost estimates, schematic design, preliminary schematic designs, pre-approval for financing, and a variety of other documentation. It was a lot of work. It took quite a bit of time, obviously, but it wouldn't have been possible without the tremendous support from numerous individuals at the city and within the development community. People like Jess Solis and Mackenzie Miller, Doug Booth, Rowan Brady within the city, and also people in the development community like Paul Leeson, James Erdmans, my now partner on this project, Steve Fry, Ryan Talbot, and countless other individuals. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved as an emerging developer. It wouldn't be possible without a strong team of individuals around me. So I want to say thank you to all them, and thank you once again to everyone here for considering this project. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Oh, I just wanted to congratulate you and editorialize a little bit. Somebody give me the hook if I talk too long, but you've done a lot in a short period of time, and I just want to encourage you to, when things don't go exactly to plan, to just never lose the belief in yourself, okay? And, you've got the technical training, you got great partners around you, but there's going to be a curveball. There'll be several of them. And so just believe in yourself. That's it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congrats.
Yeah, interesting. And was your theory that you were always going to do housing?
I did. I always wanted to be involved in housing.
Okay, all right. Well, this should help a lot in just getting you going anyway. But we saw in our last presentation, there's a lot of work and a lot of hoops to jump through, and so your persistence is admirable.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I was just curious. And congrats to you. That's a big leap. And I guess 2 points. I think that we're just starting this emerging developer program, and we've seen a lot of success so far. And I'm hopeful that there's opportunities to share lessons learned with other emerging developers that we have as we continue to kind of frame out the program more. I was just curious where you are in your approval through, you mentioned Rowan and the planning department. Does this go before the planning commission, or how far are you along in the approvals?
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit of work with Rowan to get to the point that we're at today. But the Emerging Developer Grant will cover all of the architectural, schematic, civil engineering, and geotechnical services as well, which we'll be working very closely with Rowan through that process as well. But we had to get some preliminary drawings together to get to the point that we're at today, and that required a fair bit of approval from Rowan as well.
Thank you.
So the use of housing is allowed on this property?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Awesome. That's kind of the first hurdle. Excuse me. Any other questions? Okay. We have, excuse me, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you again for your
Good
time.
luck.
Good luck.
Keep with it. Okay, our next one is a resolution approving a First Amendment to a local Brownfield revolving fund grant agreement for 1032 Martin Luther King Project, or MLK Project, located at 1032 Martin Luther King Jr. Street in Southeast.
So moved. Support.
Thank you.
All right. So this is a request before you, as you had mentioned, a First Amendment. So this project has already been approved for an emerging developer grant. So you are, I hope, are familiar with it. This was brought before the board back in December of 2024. And so the BRA approved a grant from the LBRF for an emerging developer grant to not exceed $53,500. Since then, the design work that was provided in the original scope has since increased pretty significantly. So I've been working alongside the development team to ultimately determine what is eligible on our side for additional support. And so I'm ultimately requesting additional support for this particular project in funding in the amount of $17,300. And so that would include additional support for the topographic survey and civil engineering documents to help facilitate the LUDS process and that permit approval process for the project. And so the applicant has provided another scope of work for us to show those costs broken out, to ultimately articulate kind of how to achieve with those dollars what they would need. So ultimately, the request would be to add the additional $17,300 to the existing grant agreement of $53,500 to so the ultimate new agreement would not exceed $70,800 is the ultimate request before you. Happy to take any questions about this. I know that we've had a couple of these ad hoc requests to come before you, but typically with any emerging developer grant and these early stages of development, I think that there's potential to run into some additional cost overruns that aren't necessarily anticipated. So I appreciate the consideration and happy to answer any questions about this one.
Okay. Questions? No?
I have just a general question, not necessarily related to this project, but related to the grant program. On a previous one, I think it was last month, there was a line item for financial modeling.
Yes.
And can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I think every development team or consultant kind of frames that a little bit differently, but a lot of that can help be, pro forma development for teams, really kind of helping them understand what incentives are out in the field, locally or state, right? So I think that that's a lot of what the financial modeling is indicative of for these projects. But again, we're really asking those questions along the way to make sure that those that have those items broken out even more specifically to say, hey, yes, we're helping develop the pro forma, or we're helping, get them in incentives, things along those lines. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. And our last one for this action item is an activity report for the Grand Rapids Brownfield Redevelopment Authority's Environmental Site Assessment Grant Program for May of 2025. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see here, there's a lot of highlighted yellow, which is exciting. So since the last time we brought this report in front of you all, which was back in December, I believe, of '24, we have had 4 new applications that have been internally vetted and approved by staff for the environmental site assessment grant. And so I'm happy to walk through a few of them, but as you can see here too, the names and locations of where these projects are. But there was one, a property that was acquired at 1251 Plainfield, and so the ESA request was for about $4,800 to do a phase 1 and baseline environmental site assessment for the property. The development team is actually relocating their business from a smaller space, and so they were, excited to purchase the new property, but also doing, the environmental due diligence for that. Another project that we've internally approved was for a project located at 307 Martin Luther King Jr. Street Southeast. The applicant does have an option to purchase the property, and so ultimately they would be planning to do a mixed-use development on that site, roughly 30 to 50 residential units. So this ESA request covers $3,500, which is a phase 1 environmental site assessment, which has not yet been completed, but that would help cover those costs. And then there is another property located at 1638 and 1642 Leonard Street Northwest. And so again, this development team has an intent to develop a mixed-use project with approximately 18 residential units. And so that ESA request is about $10,200 to cover both a phase 1 and a phase 2 environmental site assessment. The phase 1 has been completed, but anticipating commencement of the second phase within short order. And then lastly, we had a project from Link Up that had properties located at 1842 Collins Avenue Southeast and 1720 Martin Avenue Southeast. And so they're in the final stages of constructing 2 affordable single-family homes that are going to be sold to families at 80% of area median income. And so a phase 1 was completed on that site. And ultimately, so that particular project's a little later in the game, but unfortunately they had applied in a different system when we switched over to our different application system, and it got a little bit lost in the crosshairs. So we were hoping that we can honor the existing application that took place last summer. So that was about $1,800 to cover a phase 1. So all that being said, I also did highlight the 1101 Godfrey Avenue project that the board approved an additional $11,000 for. Again, more costs associated with the phase 2 on that particular project. Ultimately, for fiscal year 25, an amount of $206,219 was appropriated for the ESA program, which is roughly 20% of the annual LBRF revenue. And so, out of the appropriation that that for this year, we have internally approved and ultimately requesting approval from you, $134,000 of that, leaving roughly $72,219 available for the fiscal year to use for environmental site assessment grants. So I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have about this report. And then moving forward, appreciate the grace that it's been a handful of months since we brought you another report, but the intent is moving forward is that we're going to be bringing you a report every month just to talk about any new projects that have come through or articulate that no new ones have come through. So happy to take any questions.
Anybody? I just have one. What, are we just waiting on the white ones, or are those done, or?
No, those have already been approved, and as you can see, we have paid out
Yes.
portions of that. So for 251 State Street, that's actually completely paid out. But yeah, the highlighted ones are new and or have been adjusted since they were originally approved.
Okay.
So.
Did you have a question?
I do, yes. If someone qualifies for the environmental site assessment grant, also as an emerging developer,
Yep.
does it move from one, from this grant bucket into the other?
So they're separate. They're separate buckets. So I think where it gets a little bit confusing is that an emerging developer could come in and request environmental site assessments as a part of their emerging developer grant request. But we have also, excuse me, I think we can use Bryce's project at 443 Sheldon as a great example where he came in and actually requested an environmental site assessment grant for a phase 1 and BEA. And then in addition, he has also come in for an emerging developer grant, but those dollars are not going towards the environmental site assessment component, if that makes sense. So they're separate buckets, and then this one is specifically just for environmental assessments.
Good question. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other business? No? Anybody else? Okay. Public comment. Anybody out there still want to talk to us? No? Okay. We're going to adjourn this meeting. Oh, come up, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Vanessa Epps. This is the first time we've attended your meetings. We've been told about it, the Brownfield project. So with me being just new, getting involved per se, I'd like to know when she said applying for these grants, where do we start? Is this a time for me to ask, or should I just get the individuals that just talked about it to know more about it, or what?
Great question. It can be a very confusing process, so I'm glad you came and asked.
Okay.
Just have her talk with staff.
We're happy to support, yes, from a staff's perspective, we're happy to support. And then we also have a newer emerging developer brochure and handout.
Okay.
It has some of the references to the performa, as well as like how to fill out a performa. And so there's a couple of different resources, and we're happy to share those.
Okay, so I see you guys after this for the
Yeah.
brochure?
Sure.
Can you
Okay.
wait just a few more minutes? We have one more short meeting, and
Of
then
course.
staff will be able to give you everything you need.
Of course, I just wanted to ask. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Their office is right here on this floor, so
Okay,
that would be very convenient.
okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Okay, so we're going to adjourn, and we're going to go right into the Grand Rapids Land Bank Authority meeting. So I'll call that to order. Do we have any public comments about the land bank? Okay, no? Can I get a minute approval for minutes from May of 2025?
So moved.
Okay, any changes or corrections? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We have a fiscal year 2026 budget for adoption. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, here we go.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So this is the same budget that I presented a month ago. There were no changes recommended at City Commission. As I said before, this is really a very light administrative budget to cover some of our contractual needs this first year as we continue to build this up and make it into what it is. So,
What it can be.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, I do have one, and I'm not sure it's for you. Commissioner, can you tell us any more about whether or not we're passing this on in July to a new board?
Yes, so at the last, I can't remember what last meeting it was, Ms. Renero, but that is still the intent. I know that the names of the board that will be seated are still going through the vetting process, so I think that might be some of the holdup. The mayor is out of town this week at a conference, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him yesterday, but I do have some follow-up with Ms. Bosker, who's out of our clerk's office, just to see where all the names are for that. But that is still the intention, and I can definitely get, I think I was going to talk to you, Sarah, by our next City Commission meeting on June 3rd, because then, our next commission meeting is June 10th, and so any of those names would have to be on that June 10th agenda, because what I'm told also is that we're going to be taking a little break, so we won't have like a June 17th meeting.
Right.
At least that's been told, but it's not, and nothing's been formalized yet. So I haven't booked any plans as of yet, but it would need to happen, because then the next meeting wouldn't be till July, I think maybe the week before this meeting. That'd be cutting it close for approvals and regarding appointments. So just following through on that
Okay,
work.
so maybe.
Maybe. That was still the mayor's intention as of the last, like when we had our meeting for the budget review. But I'll do some of that reminder about, it's all, as you know, it's always working back from that date. And it seems like a lot of time, but it's really not if we're going to only have one more meeting.
Right.
So,
The only other thing I would offer is we are planning to take the interlocal governmental agreement to the June 10th commission meeting to just allow the changeover in board. So I feel like we're,
Progressing.
yes,
So it may be August
it may be August.
because of the reduction of number of meetings.
Sure.
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. I just didn't know where
Nope.
things were in that picking of a new board. And just for the record, would say that I assume that this budget will change over the next year, given the new board and how aggressive they want to be with what they're doing and what options are available for them. But for right now, we're doing our due diligence to get it off and running. So I think we can all agree to that. Okay, is there any other questions about this budget? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, other business.
All right, I do actually have a few updates. I promise I'll be quick. As per required by the disposition policy, I just wanted to come out and report that we have made 2 sales. They are both options that came from the state land bank. One was the one that was presented here at, I think it was
Sheldon?
February. Actually, it was, Sheldon is one of our current options. Rice is working towards that execution, but it was 1125 Alpine. The Jeff Redevelopment and Westtown Jubilee Housing, they executed their option, and so that has been processed. And the second is 546 Neeland, which is actually, as I said, coming from the state land bank, but it is actually a blighted house that is going to be redone and revamped, and so we're pretty excited about that. In addition to the sales, we have currently 7 active applications for lots. The applications went live about a week and a half ago, and so we have had a steady trickle coming in. So that's pretty exciting, seeing these lots being prepared to move. And we currently have 4 options, and we're trying to move them through, and I know one is preparing to execute that option, and then the other being Bryce. We know he's working hard. So we have made a lot of good progress from where we started last December, and so it's pretty exciting. The eProperty site is up. Highly recommend everyone to check it out, and we have a website, grcity.us/landbank, as I've been parroting that everywhere. So those are our updates. I want to, in case I'm not in front of you guys again, I just want to thank you all for the work you've done so far. We wouldn't be where we are today without all of you, so thank you.
I was going to ask you where you're going, but now I get it. I'm just a little slow this morning. I do have a question. The lots that you're actually have interest in or options on, are they buildable lots, or are they neighbors interested in what's next door? How do you know?
So far, all of the lots that have been applied for are buildable lots.
Okay.
That is a field that we added onto our eProperties listings, so they will see if a lot is likely buildable or not. So yeah, we are trying to help ensure that they know what they're potentially entering into. And so, yeah, we did add that buildable field onto the site. And so, yeah, so far, 7 of our lots are in our active listing period at the moment. And, we're hoping that they're going, I know at least one of them has indicated they're going to use a permit-ready plan. So yeah, we're excited. They're going to start building up.
I know there aren't very many of those, that are ready to, or big enough to be built on. according to current code. So I was just curious as to how that was going. So thank you very much for that update.
I was curious, how are the sale prices determined for those lots?
So right now, our ongoing city policy has been that vacant lots, if there's nothing on it, they go for $5,000. And so that's what we've been kind of running on for now. This is something that we are going to evaluate as time goes on so that we can see how much money we're actually investing into each of these lots, with property maintenance, code compliance, things such as that. And so that number may change down the line. Anything with an active structure on it, we are going to work with an assessor and really get a fair market value for that. 546 Neeland, which was a house, went for $17,000. So if it has a structure, we get it assessed and priced it accordingly. But we have not, as of right now, we don't have prices listed on the site because most of them are vacant parcels.
Commissioner?
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Ms. Wells. How long was that one on the rolls for then? How long was that, the 546 Neeland in that possession? Just, kind of to your point about like, what is the, what has been that upkeep and maintenance and just looking for average time, or you can email us too. That's
Yeah, I'll follow up on that. I don't know how long exactly, but
Okay.
I'll get that to you.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Good work. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Again, public comment on our land bank. Nope. Okay, then we're adjourned. Woo-hoo.
Thank you.
Get to do that, huh?